What's up, YouTube? It's Bill here. I'm going to show you guys how to turn a pen, make a pen, I should say, slimline, from start to finish. Here's a couple different variations of the same slimline kit, or two different kits, obviously, but same stuff required to make both types of pens. It's just one's turned a little fatter than the other, got a little bit more curve and shape to it. Some people prefer this, some people prefer this. So just preference, what you want to do, what people may want. But today I'm going to show you how to make, just basically how to make one. So stick around. Okay, so first thing I'm going to show you is the parts kit. Usually they come in a bag like this with all your parts. Obviously I got this one from Woodcraft, but this isn't the kit I'm going to show you. I'm just showing you it comes in a bag like this. All right. So in the bag you've got 2 brass tubes, or barrels. Some they've been called by both. All right, so there's those. Then you've got the nib or tip. Okay, if I can get it to stay. Then you've got the twist mechanism or the transmission. Pen clip, cap, and the collar. Okay. Oh, and I left it over here by accident, but obviously the other thing is your ink cartridge. You can't have a pen without an ink cartridge. This is your basic cross-style ink cartridge here. Pretty easy to replace. You can get a pack of 10 of these at Woodcraft and other retailers, probably Penn State, Rockler. I'm not sure if Rockler has it or not. I haven't looked, but I would assume they have it because they sell pen kits as well. So here's everything that's going to come in the kit. This is what you're going to be using, or the parts that you're going to have and putting together to make your pen once you have turned your pen. So the next step of the process is we're going to get our lumber, we're going to dimension it, cut it, drill it, so on and so forth. And I'll walk you through everything that has to do with that, okay? Okay, so you're going to get your pen blank, which I have here. This is a piece of Patagonia rosewood. I have already cut this down to dimension. This is approximately 3/4 by 3/4 by 4.5. Your blanks usually come longer than that. But this, I cut this from a piece of stock that I'm trying to get as much out of it as I can, so I cut it exactly to fit 2 tubes. But if you don't want to mess with that, you can if you buy your blank already cut as a blank, or you make your own blanks, whatever the case may be. What you're going to do is you're going to start with your blank. You're going to take your brass tube. This is your measuring device, okay? You stick it on your wood, and you want to leave about 1/16 of an inch at the ends, so that because you're going to mill them or square them up to put on the lathe. So stick it on here, and you're going to mark about 1/16 in. All right, and there's our mark. That's where we're going to cut at. So when you cut it, I don't know how well we can see this, but you're going to have space on each end, and that's good. You want a little bit of space for when you cut it. Okay, so I'm going to cut this on the bandsaw real quick. Drill it and put the tubes in. All right, as always, when working with power tools, saws, anything like that, there's a hazard. Please be careful. Try to keep your hand as far away from the blade as possible when doing this, so you do not get hurt. Okay, these things are very dangerous. Trust me, I know from experience, not from a bandsaw particularly, but from a table saw. Got kicked back, was not a fun day. So here we go. All right, so I know this piece is 4.5 inches long. I set my table saw fence to 2 1/4, just to basically cut it in half. I know that the tubes are gonna fit on each end and have a little, you know, meat, so to speak, on each side. All right, so now that our blank's cut, next thing to do is to mark the center on one end, so that way we can drill it. So there's 2 ways of doing this. I've got a fancy little pen center finder here. Picked this up at Woodcraft. You can get them online, probably Amazon and Rockler and other places, but you know, it's got a lip. Just stick it on there in the corner, okay? I'm not doing a very good job marking here. But it's all right, it'll get us in the general area. When you mark these, obviously try to get it as center as possible. Going off the camera, sorry about that. So you have a good point to do it. So that's one way of marking center. Other way is to use a straight edge. And you literally just go corner to corner. Oops. I'm not gonna worry about trying to get this perfect. I'm just trying to get, if I can hold it still without moving, you know, in the area. So corner to corner, again, corner to corner. There you go. All right. So that's another way of doing it. One thing I forgot to do and mention is that before cutting your blank in half, I mean, it's not an absolute must. A lot of people like to do this just to, you know, because it looks good. But before you cut it in half, put you a line so that way you know which way the grain matches, which way it lines up and everything. So that way when you put the pen together, it all, you know, all the grain lines up and matches, and it looks good. You know, it looks better than if you just throw it on there however which way. So make sure to do that before you cut it in half. Okay, so the next step is going to be drilling out the centers that we just marked on these pen blanks. You can get you a pen vise like this. Got this at Woodcraft. Rockler also sells one. You know, but if you don't have the budget for it, you can also use a clamp like this, or you know, just whatever clamp. However, you can safely mount the pen blank to drill, and you want to make sure it's, you know, square, straight with your bit, so you get a, you know, a nice straight hole through it, so you're not off to one side too close, and then you've ruined your blank. If you don't have a drill press, that's fine. You can use a regular hand drill. Just, you know, make sure, take the time, set it up properly. Make sure you have a way of drilling fairly straight to get a nice, you know, straight hole for your barrel or tube, whatever you want to call it. And your bit for a Slimline kit, this is a 7mm bit. Each kit is a little different. You know, some kits use the same size bit, some kits use different different size bits, like bit O for example, or 8mm. It's the same thing, bit O and 8mm. So anyway, mount this in my handy dandy pen vise. Stick it underneath here. I unfortunately have a tiny cheap drill press that I cannot go all the way through the blank, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill down as far as I can go, and then move the blank up onto the drill bit, reclamp it, and then go the rest of the way down. Sorry for the lighting if it's not that great. I would put a light on there, but I don't have one, and the one that's on my drill press is out. So anyway, here we go. This is called pecking. You don't want to just ram it all the way through and try to do it all in one pass. Some woods, you will not be able to do that no matter how sharp your drill bit is. So just take your time. Obviously mine's a little bit cold. sawdust is getting packed in the bit a little bit. Clean that out. All right, here we go. Well, see, I went too fast. Too fast, too hard. Got a cheap drill press, doesn't have a lot of power, and that's what happens. So, clean a bit out again. Try this again. Another problem with going too hard, too fast is you'll get what's called tear out, and that just means like a chunk of wood can break out and you'll have a chunk of it missing, and that happens at the end of the blank, and you already don't have a whole lot of room to work with, so that can ruin your blank as well. So just take your time, be careful. If you're working with acrylic, definitely go slow and easy. If you can, put a sacrificial piece of wood underneath, because those are a lot more prone to tear out and breaking out. So that one's all the way through. And there you go. As you can see, it's a little bit off center, but we got plenty of meat to work with, so that's good. All right, I'm gonna turn the video off for a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and drill out the other one. You already saw me do this one. I'm not gonna make you watch the other one. It's the same exact process. Again, exercise caution when using power tools. Okay, so the next thing is gonna be inserting our brass tubes, but before we can do that, we actually have to scuff them up with some sandpaper so it gives the glue some more surface area, and rough texture to grab and hold on to, so it doesn't, get knocked out of your pen blank. I'm just using some 100 grit sandpaper. You don't have to go to town on these things, get super crazy with it. Just, scratch it up a little bit. Now, some kits do come with tubes pre-scratched. I've gotten a few kits from Penn State that comes with them pre-scratched, but as you can see, we're just putting a little texture on it, so to speak. So, same thing with the other tube. Gotta do both. All right, so we've got these marked up. Now we can glue them in our blanks. For that, I'm just using some stick fast medium CA glue. That's what I've got. You can use epoxy. Well, some people like to use epoxy. They say it works better, it sticks better, lasts longer, etc. So whatever you are in the mood for, I guess. All right, so I'm going to show you one, and then I'm going to do the other off camera so that you're not having to sit here and watch a whole crap ton of video on me doing this. Now I'm going to be using a pen and tube insertion tool. You don't have to have one of these. I just like to use it because it helps keep the glue off my fingers and keep me from making a mess. But if you have one, cool. If you don't, oh well, no big deal. But if you have one, you just basically stick your tube on here like this. Okay. And just gonna put some glue on it. Turn it, add a little more, turn it, add a little more. Okay. And then all you're gonna do is just stick this in here and make sure you turn it to get an even spread on the glue, and stick it in to where it's just inside the lip there, and then you just move the tool side to side like that to take it out without pulling the tube out. And if you've done it right, you should have a little bit of a lip on your wood on each side. Well, that one's got more of a lip, but no big deal. This one's got a little bit of a lip on it. But you want a tiny bit of meat. trying to get that to focus. It's not doing very well for the milling process or squaring process, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so you can either, if you don't have any activator, you can let that dry for a few minutes, or if you got some activator, just you know, real quick hit it, and that basically instantly dries the glue, so that way you don't have to sit around and wait. And there you go. It's already dry. See? Touching it, nothing on my finger. So, all right. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one, and then we'll go from there. My apologies, I forgot to show what activator is. I'm using Stick Fast activator. Oh, look, you can get it at Woodcraft or other places like Rockler and whatnot. So that's what that is. Okay, now the milling process. For that, you'll need a barrel trimmer. If you don't have one of these, no worries. If you got a belt sander, disc sander, something that sands square, you know, straight to perpendicular to whatever surface you're sanding, you can do that. You can, you know, say this is your sanding wheel or belt or whatever. Just make sure you've got it on a flat square surface and sand it up against there until you get, you know, what you need. But I'm going to show you what you need by using that tool to drill out or mill the end there, square it up. I'm just using a regular hand power drill, actually impact if you want to be technical about it. Let me zoom out a little bit, it's kind of close. So anyway, and when you drill, you want to do it just until you start seeing the end of the brass tube, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here we go. Make sure you keep lifting up periodically to check and that you're not going too deep. But I don't see a tube yet. We're gonna keep going. All right. So once you reach the proper point, you'll see the edge of the tube, and it'll be shiny. If you haven't gone down far enough, it'll probably still be a little bit dull, but just go real lightly until you see the, you know, shiny edge of the end of the tube. All right, I'm gonna repeat the process for this end, and then do the same thing on this piece. Cut the video back on when we're ready to move on. Okay, so here's an example of why you don't want to go too hard and fast when drilling or doing anything with these woods. I went a little too hard and fast, and looky there. How wonderful is that? Split it. Probably doesn't help that I'm using an impact. This is the first time, honestly, that I've had this happen, so I was trying to rush it, and that's what I get. So I am going to start all over again. Actually, I've got another set of blanks that I have ready to go. I'm just going to use those, but I've at least got you up to that point, and everything will still, you know, line up as far as the making process. So don't rush it. Slow down. And always, when you're working with this kind of stuff, safety glasses, respirators or masks, you know, just protect yourself the best you can. All right, well, I got another set made up. So here we go. Here's my lines to line the grain. All right, got the ends milled, squared up. Okay, so each pen comes with a different bushing kit that's made specifically for, you know, making the different pen kits and types. Oops, dropped my blank there. Sorry, I'm trying to get my camera in a decent spot. So make sure you have the proper bushings for the kit that, you know, the pen that you're making. Otherwise, you're gonna run into some problems. You're not gonna be able to make it. All right, so bushings, what do I mean by bushings? Here's your bushings. These are the bushings for the Slimline pens. And how you mount this is it goes bushing, blank, bushing, blank, bushing. All right. My setup here is I have, this is my pen mandrel, 7mm pen mandrel. Here's my rod. I've got the piece that goes into the, hang on, lathe here. All right. And this is a self-locking mandrel kit I've got, including the live center here. So mandrel goes in here, okay. This goes into a chuck, or not chuck, but you know, the lathe. I'm having a brain fart right now, sorry. And then this is a live center. Now this one I've got a locking collet. They call this a self-locking system. Another setup you will see is a regular pen mandrel. Now I have a Morse Taper 2 or MT2 lathe, and that's the kind of mandrel I have. So this rod screws into this piece. This obviously goes into the lathe as well. And then you've got your knurl nut that screws on the end. And how this one works is you screw this on against the bushing and you tighten it, obviously not too tight, but tight enough to put pressure on the bushings to keep the work pieces from spinning as you're cutting them. And then this uses the cone shape live center, okay? And there's a little like divot or, you know, part that goes into, and it lines it up and it keeps everything spinning straight. So that's another setup. A lot of people like this type of setup better, or where you've got, you know, what's called a mandrel saver. That's basically this kind of setup. It just prevents you from putting too much pressure on the mandrel and bending it, warping it, causing you to turn an uneven pen. So now if I can figure out where the heck I laid my blanks down, there they are. All right, like I said, bushing, blank. Let me move my tailstock back a little bit. So bushing, blank, bushing, blank. There we go. And I don't know if you can see or not, but I've got my marks lined up, going the same way, so I know that those pieces, that's where they meet, and that's where the grain's gonna match up. And then bushing. So bushing, blank, bushing, blank, bushing. Bring your tailstock up. Lock it down. And then turn in on the end. You can't see what I'm doing here. I'm just basically turning this, obviously not too tight, but tight enough to where nothing's gonna move. Okay. All right. Then we're gonna move our tool rest up. I'm gonna be using a carbide cutting tool. With that, you need to make sure that your tool is, when you put it on here, on your tool rest, it needs to come to the center of the mandrel, you know, of your cutting area. It needs to be horizontal or perpendicular to it. If you're using chisels, or not chisels, I mean, chisel is one of the tools, but if you're using steel cutting tools, then you've got to set your tool rest up a little bit. But your tools like these, rough and gouge, parting tools and whatnot, you know, of this style, then you know your tool rest is set up a little different. But I like the carbide. It cuts nicer, it cuts cleaner, and I just feel like it's easier to work with. So, all right, got my safety glasses on. I am putting on a respirator because I don't feel like breathing sawdust. I highly recommend it. Any sawdust that goes in your lungs is not good. So, I'm gonna put this respirator on and I'm gonna get to work. I'm not really gonna talk because you won't be able to hear me due to being muffled, but just watch. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the first one, show you basically how it's done, cut the video off, turn the second one, and then come back to when we go to apply a finish. So here we go. One other thing I forgot to mention, make sure your lathe is turned up. You want to turn these at high speed. Mine's set at 3,500 RPM for this. So that's what I'm going to be turning it at to cut it down. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. That's pretty good for now. I'm gonna use sandpaper to get it down a little bit more to how I like it. I'm still actually learning myself on the lathe. So what I do is since I'm a beginner at it, I'm not very experienced. I get this turned down pretty close to how I want it, and then I tune it up, so to speak, with some sandpaper. Another thing I forgot to mention about the bushings is that these are your guides to how far down you need to turn your wood to match it up for the pen kit. You want to try to not cut into these bushings, because then you're messing up your guide, and if you do that, you got to go buy new bushings. That's all there is to it, because then you're gonna mess up. You're not gonna know if you're turning it down to the right size or not. If you cut it down, you'll cut it down too far. Your pen's gonna look messed up. Obviously, you don't want that. So I'm gonna cut the video off. I'm gonna turn the other one, get it ready, and then we'll get to sanding. Okay, got these turned down. Now we're gonna get to the sanding process. For that, I'm turning my lathe all the way down on the speed. Move the tool rest out of the way here. And I personally use 5 different grits of sandpaper for wood. It's preference, just depends on how you want your pen to look, but I start off with some 150 and work my way up to 600. So again, I'm gonna put my respirator on. I'm not really gonna talk because you won't be able to understand me, but here we go. I stop it periodically to check for tooling marks. I can see there's still some here and here, so I'm gonna keep sanding, try to clean that up. All right, I'm not gonna make you watch me sand this all the way down, but you get the idea, and I'm gonna do that with each grit, 5 different grits all the way up to 600, starting off with 150. Another thing that's recommended is when you sand, it can leave little lines in the wood, and basically to clear those out and clean it up, make it look better, stop the lathe, and just in between, go with the grain, sand with the grain. And that will help clean out those sanding marks to give you a nice, cleaner, smoother finish. Some people do it after each and every grit of sandpaper. Some people only do it at the beginning or the end. It's, just look at it, see if you like it, and move on. So I'm gonna go ahead and sand this and come back to you. All right, so got it all sanded, ready to go for some finish. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit it with a little bit of denatured alcohol first. This is just to grab up any sawdust that might still be left on it. The nice thing about denatured alcohol is that it evaporates very quickly, so you don't have to wait too long after using it to put a finish on your pen blanks. You can apply it and then, I don't know, 10-15 seconds later, start putting on your finish. So, clean these blanks up a little bit. And the cool thing about it is it gives you a little quick preview of what your pen's gonna look like. Somewhat anyway. I mean, obviously you can't see every detail because it's turning. But, yeah, as far as the color and the shine, it's pretty neat. Okay. I crank it up all the way just to help it air dry faster. All right, for the finish, today I'm gonna be using some Hut Crystal Coat. This is just basically like a mixture of beeswax and oh my gosh, I can't think. Lacquer, wow. So yeah, mixture of beeswax and lacquer. Dries pretty quick. And it makes for a really decent finish. This is what they call a friction coat finish. So you gotta, make it heat up to activate it. But it looks good. I'm, pretty happy with it. A lot of people like to use CA glue because it's durable. You can get a high gloss, like extremely high, almost glass finish with it. I think some people do actually get a glass finish. But today, we're just going to use some Hut Crystal Coat. And I use a paper towel to apply it. You can do the same with the CA. There's also these Nonstick Bushings that you can use for these CAs so you don't get the glue, so the glue doesn't build up on your bushings and ruin them. I'll show you what those look like. Basically these little plastic bushings that prevent the glue from sticking to it and building up on it, and so you don't ruin your regular bushings. But basically, you put one here, another one here, and then another one here and here. So you get 4 of them, and you put them on each side of the blank so you can put your CA. And use that for a finish if you like. And if you're using a CA finish, make sure to try to use a lint-free cloth when applying it, like a blue shop towel or something like that. I've seen those used a lot, so that way you don't leave streaking or anything. So for the Hut Crystal Coat, I'm gonna move my tool rest here out of the way, just to make it a little easier. All right, basically gonna put a little bit on the towel here. And I'm going to turn by hand and just apply it. Get a nice coat on there. Do it again for the other one. Okay. Turn it, nice coat. Get it all the way on there. Okay. And then turn this on to help it dry a little bit. Now, it says for lathe application, squeeze a small drop of Hut Crystal Coat onto a clean, soft, lint-free cloth. Larger amounts will be needed for larger objects. Apply to turnings with lathe off for even distribution. Then with lathe on, move back and forth over the turning using moderate pressure. You don't put a lot because you can bend and ruin your mandrel. Warmth from the friction will cause a gloss finish to appear in seconds. Too much crystal coat or not enough heat may cause streaking. So, to get that friction and that heat, I crank it all the way up and then apply the moderate pressure, and you'll see what happens. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it gets that nice gloss, shiny finish to it. Turn it off. I don't know if you can see this compared to this, but that's what it does. That's a friction, heat activated polish. And like with any other polish, you can put multiple coats on to ensure that it's gonna stay and last for a while. So again, moderate pressure, get it to heat up. There it goes. Slowly but surely. There we go. And there you go. I mean, lather, rinse, repeat, right? However many coats you want to do. Don't overdo it though, obviously. So if you want to apply a second coat, you can sand and rough it up again so that second coat has something to stick to. On this, it just says to sand to 600 grit, and then for second coat, you remove excess with 600 to 800 grit, and then so that way if you got pores, it'll fill them, and then you just put another coat. And then with this also, it says to shake well before using. If it's been sitting for a long time, you'll notice it'll be layered with a different stuff in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up this, putting on another coat or two, and then we'll get to the assembly. Okay, one thing to keep in mind when you are removing your pen is to make sure to keep track of how your grains are lined up, okay? If I can actually remove it. So, whoops, dropping my stuff here. All right, so normally if you have a regular collet, that'll stay in, or mandrel, that'll stay in there. Slip off your end piece, okay? Keeping in mind that this was facing that way, so it matches up with the grain. All right, I'm gonna hold it in my hand like this so I know which end is which, okay? I'm gonna come over here to the pen press that I have. If you don't have a press, you can use a clamp or a drill press. I've used my drill press before I got this. All right. I love this pen press though, it makes it super easy. Okay, so looking at it, I mean, it doesn't really matter which end is the cap, which end is the writing end. It's whatever, however you like it, whatever you think would be best. I think I want to make this the writing end, so I'll put this here. I know that this is going to be my end cap, so I'm just going to set that down how it is. All right, first thing I'm going to press in, and there's no particular order, but I'm going to put the nib. Okay. Make sure when you're pressing these together, whatever you're using, try to keep it straight and even. And don't apply too much pressure just until you get to the end, because if you do, you can break your blank. So just try to keep it nice and even when you press it together. So there's that. And since I'm working on this end, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the twist mechanism. Now there is a little score line or mark that right there above the brass. That's a general area that you need to stop, because if you go too far, then your pen's going to stick out too far. It's going to look goofy, and then if you don't have a kit to tear it apart, then you basically got to start all over again. So I'm going to press that in. All right, get it there, and you can do a test fit. So just take your ink cartridge. All right, stick it in there all the way, turn it all the way, actually looks pretty good right there. Perfect, nail on the head. So, but if you're not sure, you can leave it out more, stick it in, and then just slowly work it. You'll once you start making if you stay with it, you'll get a feel for where to stop at, and you pretty much can get it like the first time, just like that. So, I guess I can leave that in there. All right, now we're gonna put our end cap on, or pen cap. So, take our cap, put in the clip, okay, and then, so remember I said this is going to be the end cap, stick it in there, and then what you can do, look, if you have like a real nice wood, like maybe some olive wood or something that's got a lot of features to it, acrylic, something like that, just position your clip where you want it so you're not covering up like the best part of the pen, and then you just kind of hold it in place, and same thing, press it in real easy, don't overdo it. Hang on, let me switch hands here. Don't press too hard, because if you do, then break it and you gotta start over. So, all right, got our cap and clip on. Now, slide on our collar. Goes right over. It may seem a little hard at first, but it's like that, so it doesn't just fall off easily and you lose it. But once you get past that first initial start point, then it just pops right on. And then stick your other piece on, push it, and there you go. Now, what some people will do, and honestly I do it a lot of the time too, is match up the grain to where it's the same. If I can spot it, which looks like that would be it right there. Maybe. I can't really tell very well, but we'll say that's matched up. And then just press it together, and there you go. There is your new Slimline pen. As you can see, it's not a super glossy or glass finish, but that finish isn't meant for that. If you want something like that, use some CA, get you a polish, use micro mesh pads, stuff like that. And there's a lot of videos out there on pen making. This is just another one. But on those other videos, you can see how other people finish off their pens. Like I said, I personally kind of like the Crystal Hut, or Hut Crystal Coat, I mean. I think it looks good. So anyway, there it is. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it wasn't too boring for you. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.